you a little history lesson on how it came into being here. In 1862, gold was discovered over in Bannock. Bannock is about 70 miles west here, so the side of Dillon. On May 26th of 1863, there were 6 miners out of Bannock. They were headed for the Yellowstone country on an expedition. Got into all kinds of trouble on the other side of the mountain. They wound up turning around and they were headed back to Bannock. And they camped for the night down here at the end of the street on the gulch. While one of them was fixing supper, the other boys went to look for a little color in the creek. The color they found, one of the largest placer gold deposits ever discovered in the world. Placer meaning that the gold was all held in the alluvial fine materials in the stream bed. In other words, in the sands and gravels. 1864 prices, $16 an ounce for gold. They mined over $100 million worth of gold out of this gulch behind you. And that was just the placer gold. It was not the hard rock or the dredging operations.
Wow.
Now with the miners came the merchants. With the miners and the merchants came some individuals who didn't want to work for a living. Go figure. Some of them were called road agents. Had a very high percentage of robberies and murders here early on. Fact is, in the first year of existence, we had over 100 murders. Towards the end of 1863, part of the merchants and miners were masons. And if you look right over across the street there on the second story behind the flag, that is a Masonic temple. It is still active today. Those masons formed a group called the Vigilantes, and the Vigilantes set about cleaning up territory, much as they had done in California and Colorado. In the course of 6 weeks' time, they hung 22 individuals. On January 14th, they brought 5 of those individuals into town. They put them on trial. They were found guilty, and they were sentenced to be hung. And they were looking for a place to hang them. And it just so happens to be right over across the street here, this brown building with the 2 doors. That building is still known today as the Hangman's Building. It was under construction at the time. The roof was not on it. But if you look down the near wall there, you see a bump over the window. That's a beam pocket. There's a beam that runs from this wall to the other wall. Holds the 2 walls parallel and perpendicular. That was the perfect place for a hanging. They took the 5 individuals over there, they put them up on boxes, they said their goodbyes, and one of them said hooray for Jefferson Davis and jumped to his death. Obviously, he was a Southern sympathizer, as were a good portion of miners here. Now, after the tour, you get a chance to wander around over there. The far door over there is Dave Baker's Hat Shop and Rock Shop. Dave knows about her fingers, still about a rock. Halfway decent hat also. On their side there is the Sarah Bickford side. There's a depiction of the hanging in there. Plus the old beam is still there. And you can actually see the rope marks on the old beam if you look closely.
Wow. And
there's a great story there about Sarah Bickford. She was the first black woman to own a utility company in the United States. She owned a water company here for years and years. Pretty interesting story about her life and how she got here. 5 individuals hung over there. They're all buried up on Boot Hill. We're headed to Boot Hill to show you the grave sites. And I'm going to give you a little history lesson along the way. Show you some of the more interesting sites around town. So go ahead, sit back, enjoy the view, and enjoy the ride on the fire truck. The Vigilantes had a number system they used. It is the numbers 3777. If you found those numbers on your cabin, your tent, your lean-to, the wagon you were living under, or the rock you were hiding under, that meant that you had 3 hours, 7 minutes, and 77 seconds to get gone, or they would find you and they'd put you in a hole in the ground measuring 3 foot by 7 foot by 77 inches. You run across the Montana State Highway Patrolman today, you'll find them still carrying the same message with the same moniker. It's on their badges as well as on the sides of their vehicles. Millstar County Courthouse, built in 1876. County business still goes on behind those doors. We built a new annex over across the street, moved our administration over there. But we're still using the old courthouse. It's our judicial side. Unfortunately, it's closed today because just inside the door there on the right-hand side, there's a wooden spiral grand staircase goes upstairs to the second story where the courtroom is. The old courtroom still got the original wooden fuse in it, just like when it was built. A lot of famous trials taking place up there in that courtroom. Out here on the courthouse lawn on the 4th of July, in the early days, large celebrations were held. Miners came from all over to celebrate. It was a big day for them. Playing miners games, rock grilling, all sorts of stuff. The highlight of the day, though, was the firing of the cannon. There was a mountain howitzer that sat here in the corner of the lawn where that rocking tree are. David fired the cannon over across the daylight go. It's on Far Hill over there. Incidentally, that Far Hill over there is still called Cannonball Hill today. On remnants cannonballs over there. Now that was great sport for everyone, and everyone enjoyed that a whole bunch. All except for one individual. He didn't like it, not at all. His house was over there.
Go figure.
Probably heard of the mountain man Jeremiah Johnson.
Yep.
He lived here for a period of time. Later went on to become sheriff over in Red Lodge, Montana. Somebody else that lived here actually spent their childhood here and grew up here. Is Martha Jane Canary. Anybody know who that is? Calamity Jane.
Oh, okay.
She was buried in Deadwood, South Dakota alongside a wild Bill Hickok, who was her best friend. The house here behind the white fence, the doctor's residence. Her name was Flora McNulty. Interestingly, we had a lady doctor out here in the middle of the wilderness where we were in the territory. The building there next door with the red print, that is the governor's mansion. I know, it's kind of a pointless cottage. Well, then you consider most everybody else was living in tents and lean-tos and under wagons. Wouldn't have been a bad place to spend one. Probably had all the amenities of home there. The brown building there next door, hauled in here on a freight wagon. Assembled just like you do Lincoln logs. Came with a full set of instructions, just like Lincoln logs. Kid could have built it. In 1864, you could order a two-story hardwood floor home from Sears and Roebuck for $3,850.
Jeez. Can't build a
The
good
stone
shed.
building on down the street on the right, the Thompson Hickory Museum and Library, built in 1918. The museum down the basement houses one of the artifacts that was part of 1900. Tell you more about it as we go up the hill. This open area down here to the left, known as the Brewery Garden. Large celebrations were held down here in the past. And I am sure if those old trees could talk, all the stories they tell. I had a series of Gilbert Brewery built in 1864. They grew beer here right up until 1919 when Prohibition hit. Then they closed their doors forever, the brewery. It just so happens to be this is the home of the Brewery Follies, one of our live entertainment groups. Don't bring the kiddies, they won't like it. But for the adults, you might have to tape your ribs back together from laughing because they are pretty hilarious. And they are absolutely positively not politically correct. And leave no stones unturned either, believe me. Nothing sacred with these guys. They got a show going on in there right now. They got another show at 8 o'clock tonight. Unfortunately, they're sold out. They have a show at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Is their last show until Thursday. Notice the brewery wagon here in the foreground. Look how heavy the suspension is on that wagon. Now they're going to haul open kegs of beer out to the miners on that wagon. One of the questions always asked is, well, why did the miners drink beer? Well, we got a large population in this region. Sanitary conditions were deplorable. Waterborne illness was the #1 killer of the population. Beer was by far the most sanitary thing they get their hands on. The fact is, the brewers actually went out of their way to haul fresh water from the other side of the map, just to bring their beer with. If you look down the street there, the yellow building, that is a great example of a false front or facade. When people came from the east, they wanted the towns to the west to look as big as the towns in the east. So they would add a false front or facade to their buildings to add dimension to their towns. Some of them rather ornate, as is the case of that one. 2 windows and a door that go absolutely nowhere. 1863, beer, $2 a gallon. Whiskey, $7 a gallon. The whiskey cut by 50% was times with chewing tobacco and gunpowder. It was called tarantula juice. Many a man lost his battle with tarantula juice. They had 3 breweries and 19 drinking establishments within a 3-mile radius. The building here ahead of us on the hillside, that is the original Brewmaster's building built in 1863. Obviously, he did pretty well for himself. Started this much larger brewery the very next year. Part of the reason he was so successful, though, had a lot of cheap labor at his disposal. Had 14 kids in the family. The buildings here on the right lived in here by the Bogey family in the 40s when they came from Great Falls to start to restore Virginia City and Nevada City. Workers and actors lived in there with a little street community owned to itself. People actually lived in there through the 90s. The Bogies have since sold their interest to the state of Montana for the Montana Heritage Commission now. But if it had not been for Charlie and Sue Bogey and the millions of dollars they donated to this town, it wouldn't be much for the city. So our hats are always up with Charlie and Sue, keep the town alive and preserving all the history in it. This stone wall there with the door in the center, great example of an underground cellar. In other words, a big refrigeration unit. When you store stuff in the ground, the temperature remains very constant. Makes it difficult to store produce amongst everything. Lasts for a long time in there. Go ahead and enjoy the view. I'll give you more information. What's the hill? Down in the Composition Museum, they carried the courthouse down there. The treaty was written and never signed. A big coal in the spinning wheel. There's a mineral display down there. A Chinese display with a petrified birthday being given. A little boy's dress. Gun collection. There's even a human skull down there with a story behind it. And if you look around long enough, you might find a petrified cat. The museum down the middle of town has a lot of the pictures and articles from the mining industry. The 1880s on, the hard rock was in operation. They had a schoolhouse downstairs, and on the back wall they had a deer swing down the south passage. On August 17, 1959, the house split in, killed 26 people in the A not so beautiful view and a beautiful day. Those of us that are native Montanans, this is why we live here. In spite of weather sometimes, and still along. There are 20 major wildfires burning in western Montana right now. There are over 50 burning in Idaho, northern Nevada, northern California, Washington, and Oregon. There are another 160 plus burning in British Columbia. If you want to know where the smoke's coming from, you take your pick. So let's right straight ahead of us on the upper half of the hill up there, up in that hole. There's some building activity up there. That is an active commercial gold operation. There's a material mill up there. Now, Virginia City is the middle of nowhere. It is 400 miles to Salt Lake City. Everything out of it. There are 13 road agents. These individuals were all brought into town. They were put on trial, found guilty and hung, and then hauled up here and very unceremoniously stuffed in a hole in the ground with the boots on. That doesn't mean to say before. I'm sorry. Did for boots. Somebody else didn't have their boots on, so they didn't pay. I'll park here with the first 5 graves. I'll move ahead of the others in just a minute. Now these are the 5 guys that were all hung on the same day. None of these guys is famous. The guy in the middle there, Boone Helm, he's the guy that set a raid for Jefferson Davis. A side note on him, he was a convicted cannibal in Canada. People always ask me, they always say, oh, these guys that got hung, were they really all bad guys? Well, we can't vouch for all of them, but he damn sure was. The guy on the end down there, George Wayne, his nickname was Clifford George. Had a shivery fair business down on Main Street. His lot with this group was to watch the stage station to see when the next shipment of gold was going out. We had a sheriff at the time by the name of Henry Plummer. Henry came to us courtesy of California, where he had done time in San Quentin prison for murder. He was out on parole. Well-spoken, well-dressed individual came to Montana Territory looking for a job. They needed a sheriff in Bannock, and they hired him. And he immediately started to put together a gang of thieves. Henry Plummer and 2 of his deputies were hung from their own gallows in Bannock, and they're still buried there today. Now, originally, this hilltop up here was called Burial Hill. There was over 100 grave sites up here. But after the road agents were buried up here, the local people didn't want to be here anymore. They started a new cemetery up behind us, and they either moved their loved ones' remains, or they simply moved the headstones up to the new cemetery. By the 1920s, the cemetery was pretty much in ruinous disarray. The only headstones that hadn't been stolen had been pushed over. Down in one of the local establishments one day, there was an argument that ensued about whether or not anybody was really buried up here, or whether it was simply just a bunch of BS. Now, I'm not going to say whether alcohol was involved or not, but some said yes, some said no. The argument escalated, the bets were made, and up the hill they came with their digging utensils. And they dug up Clubfoot George. Of course, they could identify him. And he was buried right exactly where Clubfoot George was supposed to be buried, just like all the stories said. Right there. And because we know where Clubfoot George is buried, we know where the other 4 individuals are buried, because of the order in which they were hung and hauled up the hill. His foot was in a glass case down in the museum for years and years and years. We now have a replica. Politics. If you look down here to the left of the creek bottom, you see a pond. That pond is part of the stream bed of Old Gulch. Old Gulch runs 8 miles up the creek that way, 8 miles down the creek this way. A miner's claim 100 foot of creek frontage from the center line of the creek perpendicular to it. In other words, friends ran up one side of the creek and down the other. At one time, they said there were close to 35,000 individuals here on Old Gulch. By 1868, this place looked like the surface of the moon. There was no vegetation left anywhere in sight. Trees had all been removed, either for building materials or for wood. They even dug the stumps out of the ground for wood. And of course, to check for gold underneath them. If you look up the creek there, you see the green silos. That's another active commercial gold operation. About 200 yards below that, there's a rock monument called the Point of Discovery. That monument is to the 6 original miners. That's where they discovered the gold on May 26th of 1863. If you would like to visit that, you can drive up Jackson Street and follow the signs, the Point of Discovery. Or you can go talk to the stagecoach driver. He has a tour up there. The white building over top the Wells Fargo sign used to be a hospital. It is now called the Bonanza Inn. It is one of the buildings that is on the Ghost Tour that originates the Bale of Hay Saloon. They'll be running a tour out of there at 9 o'clock tonight. All things spooky down there. You never know what's going to happen on a ghost tour, especially when it gets dark outside. This is William and Claire Dalton, no relation to the famous Dalton family. These individuals came on a wagon train to Panic, went back over here to Virginia City. They died 7 days apart of mountain fever, leaving 4 children. One of their granddaughters, who's buried over in Dillon, had this stone wall erected around her grandparents to separate them from the road agents. And incidentally, 2 years ago, I had 17 individuals on a fire truck one day, all direct descendants of those 2. And I got to sit up here for 30 minutes and I got a history lesson. It's pretty cool, let me tell you. Grandma confirmed a lot of what we perceive to be history. It's pretty interesting stuff there. If you look up the ridge where the taller trees are behind the flights, where the new cemetery is. Look at the skyline up here. You see much up here on top of the hill. Come over on the left side of it, halfway down the hill, coming out the left corner of the notch, you see a roadway coming on an angle down across the face of the hill. That is the freight wagon road coming into Virginia City. It is the extension of the Bozeman Trail, medical portion of the Montana Trail on Salt Lake City, Montana. The road on this side is known as the Slate Road. It is owned by the Slate family. Had a toll booth on the other side of the mountain. Now, on the early freight wagon roads, where there were bad places, private enterprise would move in. They would fix the roadway, and then they would erect a toll booth. If you wanted to use their new improved road, you had to pay a toll. You could pay as much as $10 a wagon. Some people paid 25 cents just for their dogs. In 1866, we have great records that show over $12.5 million worth of merchandise came down that roadway into Virginia City. For those of you that came over the hill from Ennis, so it's going 2 ends, the flat spot on top of the hill, still known today as the racetrack, where they used to race the ponies on Sunday afternoon. A stamp today, 49 cents. Back then it was $1 for a letter. The difference today the sender pays. Back then the receiver paid. Mrs. Sanders, one of the local ladies, she hadn't received any mail for a while. State cook came in, she had 25 letters, cost her $25 to gather up all the mail. The sheriff, Henry Plummer, he ordered a turkey for Thanksgiving dinner to impress his political friends. Cost him $40 out of Salt Lake City. Those political friends? Yeah, Same guys that hung him 2 months later. Careful who you invite to dinner with, Jim. You get a good look at the courthouse. To the left of the courthouse, the stone building between the two big trees, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, built in 1902 out of native stone. The glass is imported from Germany. It is the only active church in Virginia City, and its doors have never been locked. It's open 24/7 to everyone. And I would encourage everyone to go up and have a look at it, because it is truly an absolute gem. And remember, everything there was hauled in on freight wagon. Never had a railhead here in Virginia City. You look over across the way, you see the Thompson Hickman Museum and Library, the Green Shepherd. By the way, they close at 5 o'clock. They'll open at 11 tomorrow. The building to the left is schoolhouse. The kids go to school in it now. If you're a firefighter, that is an unreinforced masonry brick building. It has been condemned. The stone building to the right across the street is the white trim behind the flag. The stone house said breakfast. Built by a blacksmith here in town. Got the first electricity in 1892. That is 10 years after New York City. But interestingly, Butte, Montana had electricity before New York City did. How on earth is that possible? Well, all of the resources were all out here in the West. All the cutting edge technology was all out here in the West, trying to recover those resources. Those resources were extremely important, not only to the war effort, but to the post-war effort. Whoever controlled the resources wrote the history book. If the Confederacy would have gotten a hold of all the resources here, history probably would have looked a lot different, and so would our lives. We got the telegraph here in 1866. People were really excited about that. They could send a message clear to New York City. Only cost them $1 a word. Individuals who sent and received those messages called lightning gobblers. How'd you like to have that on your resume? Our population here is about 120, give or take, depending on the weather. There was a large Chinese community here. The Chinese, because they were not citizens, they couldn't own property. But as quick as a mine or a claim was abandoned, they would move in and work it. Many times doing way better the second time than the original people did the first time, mostly because of work ethic. The other business they ran here in town was the laundry business. They washed all the clothes. And at the end of the day, they could be seen panning for the gold up that they had washed out of the miners' clothes from the spent wash water they had saved all day long. They were said to be some of the richest people in town. Now this open area over here to the left, this is known as the Elephant Corral. That was a slang term during the Civil War. Come see the elephant. That meant anything unusual and different. And I'm sure with all of the livestock and all of the individuals we have here in this area, I'm sure there was a lot of things unusual and different happened down here in this corral system. We even had camels hauling in freight here at one time. Don't believe the camels ever got into town, but we know they were hauling freight across Idaho from Salt Lake City. Had an individual that moved up here early on from Colorado, a very affluent businessman by the name of Captain Jack Slade. But after Captain Jack got here to Virginia City, he got into the tarantula juice, became one of the town drunks. On March 10th, he was riding his horse up and down Main Street, shooting his Navy Colt revolver, backing his horse into doors and windows and running over people. Went into the theater, which was having a performance at the time, caused quite a disruption in there. Came out of the theater, came over into the general store. The general store is the brown building here with the steps going up in the back. When he came in the general store, he pulled his pistol on the proprietor. It just so happened to be the proprietor was the president of the Vigilantes. Captain Jack was arrested for drunken disorderly conduct, which is a misdemeanor. Well, the townsfolk heard Captain Jack had been arrested. A crowd started to gather. The Vigilantes being on a roll, somebody suggested to hang Jack Slade. Well, he sent word to his wife, Virginia. Remember the Slade Road? She was working the toll booth on the other side of the mountain. And Virginia? She was a better shot and a better horseman than most of the men in the territory. Frankly, most of the men in the territory were scared to death of her. She always came and got Jack. They waited for a bit, the crowd got larger, more boisterous. They decided to hang Jack Slade. As they were coming down the steps, they could see Virginia coming off the hill behind us. They hurried him down her hill with his trail and they hung him from the gatepost. Virginia arrived on scene. She gathered up Jack, took him up to her house, and because she did not want him buried in the territory, she put him in her bathtub and she pickled him for the rest of the winter.
Oh my God.
When the stage line started to run again in the springtime, he was sent to Utah. And he is buried today in the Mormon Avenue Cemetery in Salt Lake City. Got a lot of people from the Salt Lake area know right exactly where Jack's buried. Said they always knew he was there, they just didn't know how he got there. Now they figure they know the rest of the story. But at the time, a one-way ticket, $225. Freight, 16 cents a pound. No, we do not know how Jack went. There are lots of stories and lots of speculation. You think about it. If he went on a stagecoach in a coffin, the only place that coffin would have fit would have been up on top of that stagecoach. And a coffin filled with pickle juice and a body sloshing around, top heavy as that stagecoach would have been, that driver would have dumped him in a sagebrush half a mile out of town. There's another story that has Virginia sitting alongside of him, holding his pickled fingers all the way to Salt Lake City. Don't believe that happened either. But we don't know for sure. Don't know how Jack went. What we do know for sure, though, is that Jack Slade is the only individual that was ever hung for a misdemeanor in the territory of Montana, the state of Montana. His Navy Colt revolvers in the Gene Autry Museum in California. As for Virginia, well, she remarried. Married one of the vigilantes. Actually, one of the guys that hung her husband. They said that didn't last very long either. Can't understand why. How large was the red light district here in Virginia City? On the side of the trip here. This was the dark side of town. The good people didn't come over on this side of the trip. A lot of comments about this cabin. Why is the roof so low? Why is the door so short? Matter of resources. Those logs were all hauled in here. They're all hand hewed, which is very time consuming. If you look at how the corners are laid in there, the corners are laid in there on a double bevel. The weight of the building holds the building together. There's no nails in it.
Huh.
There's a single beam runs from one wall to the other wall over the window and door. That's why the door is so short. And I'm sure that the individuals who built that cabin would much rather than not digging for gold to build the cabin. But when wintertime came, it's probably a great asset because I'm sure there's a lot of people who paid a lot of money to stay in this cabin. Montana Heritage Commission has put a foundation around underneath it, shored it up, straightened it up, re-cheeked it, fixed it up for viewing. Somebody actually lived in there until the mid-1950s. The buildings on the left, the ones up behind on the right, all built started in 1900. Now all of the better buildings are all up on Idaho Street, up by the church. That's where the merchants built their houses when their wives arrived on scene. Funny how that happens. For anybody that came up from Alder, anybody headed down to Alder, down the creek bottom here for the next 8 miles, there's a whole series of gravel piles and rock piles. That's from the dredging operations that took place here. At one time, we had 2 of the largest dredges ever built in the world operating here, and they operated clear through 1939 when World War II hit. The only reason they ceased operations then is they could no longer get steel to repair the dredges with because of the war effort. The building up here on the right, the train depot. It is a reproduction. We never had a train in Virginia City. Everything was hauled in here on a freight wagon. The Bogies built this. The train track runs down to Nevada City. There's the Montana Heritage Commission. There's a large Chinese community that ran first across the road here, and a 2-story Chinese temple in the middle of the street over the log cabin on the left, the schoolhouse from Town, 2 miles to the north. First 2 weeks straight there. Notice the street lamps that have been kerosene oil back then. They lit them at night, put them on in the morning. On the right, the Opera House, 68 years, continuous live theater. Got a show tonight at 7. When you paid attention to it. Next door, the world famous Bell Hay Saloon, Montana's old watering hole. Turn the Lonesome Dove a little bit, yeah, we'll come in there. It's also your good story headquarters. Yes, the steward on the left, that's where public George Petty shoe repair business. Looking up the street at the state station. That building is a reproduction. Most of the rest of the buildings on this end of town are original buildings. You see a lot of blacksmith shops in town. Took a lot of blacksmiths to keep everything functioning and working. They employed a lot of people here in town. Fairweather Inn on the left, named after Bill Fairweather, one of the original discoverers of gold. Bill is buried in the new cemetery up on the hill. He died at age 39. Too much torrential disease. Montana Post, that was our first newspaper. There's 2 floors in there as well as 2 floors next door in the museum. On the right, two-story brown brick building, the territorial capital. It was the territorial capital all the way through 1875 when it moved the last chance coach up in Hamlin. On the left, ranks drugstore mercantile. That is the front side of the general store. You were looking at the back side of earlier. It is still a working mercantile and one of the few businesses still be around here in town. Got a great selection of period clothing as well as one of the best bookstores around. Well, third part, finish up here for you. Look up across the parking lot over top of the motor or the camper here. You can see a house buried up there in the trees. With a chimney barely poking out over top of the tree line. That is where Captain Jack spent the winter in the bathtub. Now that house been remodeled a bunch of times. And the last time they remodeled it, they did a very nice job. It's a very modern house now. People actually live there. I still often wonder, though, if they have any idea what might possibly be lurking behind their bathroom closet door. That concludes the tour. Thank you for visiting Virginia City. Back to see us again. Thank you.